Hello there, my name is Stephanie Rojo and I'm an attorney at Stone Law Offices in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you have a trust, but you don't have anything titled in your trust, then there's going to be problems potentially later on during your life or in the event that you pass away. And by problems, I mean if you have an unfunded trust, then there are very good chances that your family may have to have a probate in the event of your passing, or if those assets are not titled into your trust during your lifetime and for whatever reason you can no longer manage those assets yourself, you have a situation of disability or incapacity that comes up, then an adult guardianship would need to be opened on your behalf. So when clients come to see us and they want to establish an estate plan for themselves, we can do the most beautiful planning in the world. But if the client doesn't take the steps to move forward and retitle those assets into the name of the trust, then there, like I said, would be problems. Now, our office does have a program to assist clients with getting their assets put into their trust. Not everybody wants to participate in that program, and that's okay. We have very detailed instructions that we provide all clients who walk in the door to give them an understanding of what those next steps are in order to get their assets put into their trust. Every once in a while, I come across an individual who has actually taken things outside of their trust. For whatever reason, they didn't want to keep it in the trust, they wanted to own it with somebody else, or they wanted to give that asset to another individual. Oftentimes that comes up with an adult child that they want to make a gift to. I have seen this done with real property. It's not always recommended that you start giving away your assets during your lifetime. There's a lot of things that go into that analysis. We would want to look at whether or not you actually need the value of that asset later in life. If for some reason your other assets are no longer available and you've given this asset away, then that doesn't bode very well for yourself later on in life if you need some long-term care or something else related to your health that's quite costly. So giving things away during your lifetime is not always the best route to go. However, it does work in some instances. And if you are thinking of giving away maybe one of your extra houses to a child, an adult child, or other family member, we can have a conversation about whether or not that makes sense for you and how that would actually play out. Now, I did recently have a conversation with an individual who had done something like this, where they had multiple real estate properties and multiple children and had previously retitled those homes out of their own trust and into the individual names of their children during their lifetime. And I'm meeting with this person after this had occurred, and the situation comes up where their child had passed away after the home had been transferred into their name. And the individual was very perplexed in the sense that they thought that a trust avoids a probatable situation. And I had to explain that your trust with your assets prevents a probate situation for yourself. But if you take things outside of your trust and you give them to an individual in their individual name or to them and their spouse in their joint names, that's an entirely different situation. And when those people have something in their own name that they've received from you, or they've built it up over their lifetime, maybe they have their own house, their own investment accounts, bank accounts, things like that, they have to have their own estate plan as well. So it's important for you to have your own estate plan. And if you're giving something during your lifetime to someone else, that you prompt them to talk to an attorney to get an estate plan for themselves. Otherwise, there is the potential that they pass away and they own this asset still in their individual name. There's no beneficiary designation, there's no co-owner, and there is a probatable situation. So that could definitely be avoided if proper planning is put in place. And ideally, that planning is done with an estate planning attorney, and that estate planning attorney is walking you through the steps for retitling your assets into your trust. Now, one other thing, if you have a trust and you are leaving things to your beneficiaries and you're leaving things to them outright and free of trust, meaning you have no strings attached to those distributions, it's not going to be held in trust for a beneficiary. Basically, when you pass away, there will be a trust administration process, and then after that, once the accounting's been approved, the creditors have been paid, the taxes have been finalized, and once the trustee is ready to move forward and make distributions to those beneficiaries, and those beneficiaries receive their distributions out of your trust and into their individual name, the same situation arises. Those beneficiaries are going to need to do their own estate planning to make sure that there is a plan in place for those assets they're receiving, in addition to the assets that they already have, not only for the distribution plan, but also for a plan for themselves if they do have a situation later in life and they can no longer manage those assets. Now, there are different types of trusts where you can build more structure into the distribution plan itself so that those distributions can be held in trust for the beneficiary. But the estate planning only goes so far as the distributions that are coming out of your trust. It doesn't protect or cover any of the other assets that the beneficiary may have acquired themselves during their lifetime. So there's a lot of things to think about. And at Stone Law Offices, we can have a conversation with you. We can have a conversation with your family members. We can have a conversation with your close friends to discuss what the plan is and identify if there's any weak spots with any of the family members in their current planning, and come up with a plan that suits them and their families so that those weak spots can be strengthened. If you have any questions about what I've discussed here today, I'd love to have a conversation with you. My name is Stephanie Brohel. I'm an attorney at Stone Law Offices. My number is 702-998-0444.